You won't be saying Nevermore after we discuss Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Hello, everybody. My name is Rob. This is my mom, Caren. You are watching Books, Banter, and Beyond. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the series. We've been having so much fun making it for you. And today we're going to go over probably one of the most famous poems ever, I think.
Right.
Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven remains a timeless masterpiece due to its haunting atmosphere, complex symbolism, and the enduring themes of grief and loss. For those who don't know the poem, it's about a man who just lost his wife and is kind of in mourning, and while in mourning is pretty much annoyed repeatedly by a raven that just kind of sits at his window and I don't
Right.
know, I guess is just being a raven, right? Um, the rhythmic structure with its use of tracheic octameter and internal rhyme creates a hypnotic cadence that draws the readers into its spiraling despair. A better way to say that is the nice rhymes that it has gives everybody a very kind of like, whoa, in-depth experience to this man's basically crazy that he's dealing with.
Right.
Of course, the mysterious raven, the word repeated nevermore, serves as the reminder of the man's inability to escape his grief. Now, it's interesting to think about this because this kind of, in a way, if you look at it in today's perspective, for me, it's the idea of you never forget a loss. So, in a way, the raven is not necessarily being annoying. It's kind of a reminder to the man of, yes, you've lost your loved one, but make sure to always keep them in your mind, your heart, right?
Right.
And it's kind of an interesting idea there. It's still to this day, I think, probably something that everybody can repeat. It's always been used in various media, whether it's being spoofed or whether it's being redone. Um, it's a great.
And it is, and it kind of touches on, believe it or not, Jewish tradition. Is that
Oh, okay.
as long as people remember you and continually think about you and say your name, you're not gone. You are still there,
Interesting.
and so it's our job, as it's our only job, is to keep the memory alive, and that is by talking about it and remembering it and sharing pictures. And so I look at this, and the first thing I think of is that it's the most important job that we have as human beings. Um,
Interesting. I learned something today. That's actually really cool. And yeah, that is I see that. That's exactly what I think he's kind of saying here is that the raven signifies the memory
right.
of the grief. And as long as you at least, hold a portrait or have the anniversary or whatever it is, you are keeping them alive in spirit, literally.
Right, and it acknowledges that grief is grief. There's no amount of time that's the right amount of time or not around. Your grief is your
Yes.
grief, and it's going to be there. And if you have remembrances of it, the raven, or remembrances of it of when we think about people on the anniversary of their death, or maybe every single day, you're keeping that alive. It's a beautiful poem. I mean, I know it's a
It
really
is. I mean, Poe as a person wrote a lot of really good stories and poems, and I think due to his own personal real life grief, which I know we've talked about before, how authors use real trauma, he definitely was able to get into the psyche, and that's actually one reason why they say even today it resonates because it dives into the fear and the emotion of the afterlife, the fear of losing.
right.
um,
The finality of death. I mean, death is death. You're not coming back. I don't care what religion you believe in, whether it's reincarnation or not. You and your body, as you are right now, you're not coming back.
right. No, and as blunt as it sounds, that it's a very good statement because it definitely it proves Poe's point, and I think it also it helped that back in that day, the Gothic style, the old Victorian places like where he was. That was what the belief was. They were very. It was very concrete. It was like once this happens, that's it, you're done, move along. You might,
Right.
and yeah, you might come back as something else, but you as you were, you ran your course, you did your thing.
So, Rob, do you think it's still relevant in today's time? This whole
Yeah,
thing?
I mean, as I was beginning to say, I think the biggest thing that is important to take from this is the idea that it's not, it's the end all, but it's not the end all at the same time. You always have the ability to remember. You always have the ability to think. In many versions of this physical media, you see him sitting in a chair, and there's a portrait of her, and
Right.
that's physical remembrance. He has this giant portrait of his wife, and every day he goes to his study, he sees her. So I think the importance of it today, especially in times with everything going on in the world, it's the importance of, if something, God forbid, happens,
Hmm.
keep the memory alive, keep the
Right.
love, keep the thought, right? In,
Right.
in your body and in your mind.
I mean, there's some obviously supernatural stuff going on here as well. So, I mean, do you think it attracts or detracts?
I mean, I think most of the time, and we can explain this from the whole Walking Dead phenomenon, people like the supernatural stuff. So I think anytime you add some sort of scary element, whether it's the living dead, whether it's the supernatural raven, so to speak. Because if you think about the raven in this story, is not a regular bird. It definitely has some sort of extraordinary,
Right.
insight, right?
Right.
So I think for the most part, people who like him and will read this poem, they like it because of that. Now, does it make everybody want to come? I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of iffies there, and a lot of people are kind of, they don't want to touch it. But I would say, and me included, a lot of people would have to agree that what makes this so fun and so interesting is that kind of supernatural spirit ghost, thing, right? So
When
it's
did you read
a
this
good.
book? How old were you when you first read this book? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I feel like I know I studied it in high school, but I may have read it in middle school. So yeah, I first read it a while back. I mean,
So,
it's been a long time.
how many times have you read it more than once?
Not recently, but I definitely could say I've probably read it a good handful, maybe about 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Um, it's short. It's a little verbose when it comes to the words. Obviously, keeping in mind this guy was writing in a style that most people don't speak. So a
Right.
lot of the times you're reading words, going, "What does that mean? Like, what the hell does that mean?" But it is a very quick read, and I think if you want a well, for me, that's why I read it so many times, because I was able to read it, back to back,
Right.
and still go back and read it again. So
And get
I've
something
read it a
new.
good amount of times.
And get something new out of it every time you read it,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Every time you sit there and you go, wait, where? And then you have to look up the word,
Right.
and you go, oh, that just changes the entire story right there. So it's a great, little poem story. And I keep going back and forth because I think it's classified as a poem, but some people will call it a
Short
story
short story, yeah.
because of how the rhythm works. So it's a very interesting read. Yeah.
Me want to go back and read it again. It's been a very long time. I can't even remember how long, so it makes me want to go back and read it again.
There
Um,
you go.
this is that time of the show that we like to remind you that there's all sorts of amazing, gently used books at the Next Chapter bookstore.shop. Go check it out. If you want to go there right now, take your phone out and scan the one on the left. It will take you to all the paperbacks and hardbound books. In the middle is the comic books. If you love comic books, that's for you. And on the right hand side, the merchandise, mugs, shirts, and collectibles. Something for everyone.
Always something for everyone. And yeah, if you guys want a nice little read, go find the Raven.
And we'll see you next time on Books Banter and beyond. Goodbye, everyone.